All right, nurse, what we got?
Doctor, are you drinking whiskey?
It's stop asking questions. Just what is the problem with the patient?
Well, his heart.
Okay.
His heart is outside of his body.
What are the odds?
The heart's not supposed to do that, so probably pretty low.
That's fine. I've done worse before.
What?
I brought this from home. Is that fine?
No, not really.
Wish me luck.
Oh, God have mercy! I stabbed him right in the face.
So when I decided to play this game, I had no idea that it was a bullfrog game. I just decided to play Theme Hospital because people had told me for many years that it was a game worth playing, especially as a big fan of management and simulation games. And I say that because I feel like I just did a bullfrog game not too long ago, and that's true, and I did. It was Dungeon Keeper. But in the 90s, if you were playing a management or a simulation game of any type and you weren't playing a bullfrog game, then you were doing it wrong. So I booted up Theme Hospital, and once I saw the Bullfrog logo, I knew I was in for a heck of a time. But how good is Theme Hospital all these years later? I mean, it did launch in March of 1997. We have approaching its anniversary. Maybe we already passed its anniversary. I just know it was March at some point. Regardless, let's take a look at Theme Hospital. It should come as no surprise that I'm a huge fan of simulation and management games. One look over at my gaming channel and you'll see a plethora of different ones varying from style, theme, mechanics, and so on. I love playing God in these types of games, and there's a primal satisfaction I get when I see my civilization or my industry or whatever I'm doing running like a well-oiled machine after hours of learning and mastering its mechanics. I am the Mathas of daddies, just ask all the ladies. There's also a more twisted pleasure in watching everything unravel before your very eyes, or other things happening. Aw, they're banging! They're banging, they're loving! Gross. Don't do that in front of me. I don't want to see like Northern Lions little... And in my top 10 games of 2016 video, I talked about my love of Planet Coaster. And it's fantastic and you should absolutely go play it. And my initial love of simulation games starting with Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. However, Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 and SimCity were the only proper simulation and management games I ever really played as a kid, and I was hot-ass garbage at them. My cities would fall apart, everyone would be mad at me in Roller Coaster Tycoon, and everything before long would be in ruin. But that didn't stop my love for them. Within minutes, I'd start fresh and try again. There's a magic to this genre that hooks me every single time. And Theme Hospital...
Not required in general diagnosis.
Welcome. Sorry. Where was I? Oh, right. And Theme Hospital seems right up my alley. Bullfrog has a pedigree for fantastic strategy and simulation games in the 90s, so seeing their logo on this game had me giddy from the start. The idea is simple. Take a bit of land in empty buildings and build a successful and profitable hospitals with doctors, nurses, receptionists, patients, and all sorts of machinery with a reputation high enough in the town to be considered a success and move on to the next empty plot of land desperately in need of medical caretakers. To anyone who is familiar with this genre, nothing here will surprise you. You'll build offices to diagnose patients, build treatment rooms to take care of each individual diagnosis, and research rooms to discover new ways to diagnose and treat those patients. Even with a tutorial that lasts about 30 seconds, I had no problems picking up the basics and discovering things on my own. You'll have access to tools that will help you manage your research, budget, wages of the doctors, hospital max capacity, and so on. With all that said, what makes Theme Hospital worth revisiting today? Why, excellent question, my made-up friend, and I've already given you the answer. Yes, Bullfrog Games. Every bit of Theme Hospital oozes with the Bullfrog charm. Theme Hospital is by no means a realistic simulator by any stretch. Each patient that comes in is in hilariously bad shape. From bloaty head, a sickness where the patient literally has an oversized noggin that needs to be popped and refilled to the correct size, to invisibility where only the right potion will fix the issue. The character models are bright and colorful too, so each patient looks hilarious and appropriately cartoonish. Meanwhile...
Doctor, attending secretary, please.
Meanwhile, the animations for curing those sicknesses are also funny and horrific. From the aforementioned head popping to curing slack tongue by using a machine to literally chop the person's tongue down in size in horrific and primitive fashion. Now that I think about it, nearly every cure my hospital has is violent as hell. Popping heads, chopping off tongues, surgery without a nurse present or anesthesia? And we have a positive reputation in this town? What in the hell are the other hospitals doing? Cure yourself or I'll shoot you, you motherfucker! Not only that, but after we horribly and irreversibly damage cure them, they pay us hundreds of dollars. Ah well, as long as we meet the budget, who cares, right? Yeah, so the game is clearly full of personality. Even each doctor, nurse, handyman, and receptionist you hire has their own traits and personalities, most of them comical in some form or another, turning these characters from lifeless icons to something you almost sorta care about in a make me money and I won't fire you sorta way. But with
Doctor required in GP's office.
Okay, you know what? Listen, I'm game for micromanagement and macro gameplay. I really am. It's the lifeblood of simulation games like this. But Jesus Christ, is Theme Hospital like a needy girlfriend or boyfriend who blows up your phone every few minutes to make sure you're still in love with them? I think it's pretty clear I enjoy Theme Hospital, and I enjoy it a lot. But the game has also made me realize something. Simulation and management games have come a very long way since 1997, and I've taken a lot of the quality of life improvements they've made over the years for granted. For all the good Theme Hospital has, its flaws are a little glaring. One of the first and most obvious—
Doctor required in X-ray.
One of the first and most obvious ones is the receptionist, but more specifically, the pathfinding and AI in the game. The doctors in the game are supposed to mimic real people. They'll get stressed and tired, and will need a break every now and again if they're to be working for so long. So you'll have a break room for them to rest in once they hit that particular point, and they'll wander in that direction to go take a break. And if a patient needs a certain treatment and the doctor for that room isn't in it, the receptionist comes blaring over the intercom informing you.
Doctor required in general diagnosis.
This wouldn't be so bad if it didn't happen too frequently, but the issues lie in the AI and, as I said, the pathfinding. More often than not, the doctors end up getting stuck or confused and just wandering the hallways around and just often going back and forth in a loop. So you'll need to manually pick them up and drag their overpaid asses to the room they're needed in to get them to do their damn job. And since this happens so often, you'll often hear the shrieking voice of your receptionist over the intercoms. And the game, for all of its neediness and shrieking, does a piss poor job at explaining some of the finer details that you'll need to know going into later levels. One of the more fun mechanics of the game is that, as certain patients get diagnosed, it'll become clear that you don't have that particular disease fully curable, and you'll be presented with one of three options. Either to send them home, or to give them a cure that has a percentage chance of working, and if it fails they die, which drastically hurts your hospital's approval rating, or to have them wait until you build, and I quote, more diagnosis rooms. Now, silly me, early on, I thought this meant just more general diagnosis rooms since I had no other ones to build, as researching doesn't come along until a few levels in. What it actually means is more specific diagnosis rooms like X-rays. But the game, even later on, never explains this to you, so I was building general diagnosis room after general diagnosis room, not understanding why it never fixed my issue. But once the light bulb clicked, it all made complete sense. I just wish it had told me that much earlier. And the final minor gripe I have with Theme Hospital isn't one about its gameplay, but more of an option I wish it had. It's the lack of a sandbox mode. The game is purely level-based, each one presenting a new area, an empty building, or buildings to build your hospital in, meet goals, then move on to the next. I would have loved to have a sandbox mode to build my own walls and have the campaign serve as a sort of extended tutorial of sorts. I feel like the rug is pulled from under me when I finally get my hospital to run like a well-oiled machine, only for the level to end and see all of that hard work and all the decision-making taken away from me. The freedom to make my own hospital and play it for however many hours I wanted to would have added hours and hours of playtime for me onto Theme Hospital. But as it is, it's still a great game. And there are 3 difficulties to play through, so there is still some replayability built into it. So with all of that said, Theme Hospital's still well worth going back and playing today, especially for fans of the genre. Sure, it may not have the infinite replayability of a lot of today's more modern simulation and management games, but there's still dozens of hours you can pull out of Theme Hospital. It's funny, it's charming, it plays well, and it's Bullfrog, so you know you're getting at least a particular amount of quality with the game. So I, the Honorable Judge Mathas, judge this game as guilty. Guilty of what most management games do, sucking away hours of my life and making me lose track of time. It's also guilty of neglecting to tell me some of the more important and detailed aspects of how the game plays in the tutorial, but that's something most people can figure out pretty quickly on their own once they delve into the deeper mechanics within the menus. Theme Hospital is absolutely worth picking up, and I would highly suggest grabbing a copy over at GOG. It's pretty cheap and it runs perfectly on modern machines, or at least ran perfectly on my modern machine. So I've clearly been covering a ton of different strategy, simulation, management style games, so my question is going to be pretty easy. What is your favorite strategy, simulation, godlike management, whatever game? The genre is kind of all encompassing at this point, but I want to know what your favorite one is, as there's so many different ones that are out there. Let me know in the comment section below or over on Twitter. I'm excited to read your answers and maybe broaden my video game library just a little bit more. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this episode, and I want to say thank you for being patient for this episode. I apologize. This was supposed to come out last week instead of the big box PC video that I threw together, but wisdom teeth have a tendency of throwing a kink in the works at a drop of a hat. It was really incredible how I had no pain one day and excruciating pain the next. It absolutely was some of the worst pain I have felt in my life, and I am an utter baby when it comes to pain. But the tooth is gone, I'm feeling great, and it's good to be producing videos again. Also, I'll be at PAX East this weekend, so if you're gonna be there and you see me, say hello. I'll be wandering the show floor all 3 days, and it'll be good to see some people, and I always love chatting about video games whenever I have the opportunity. I hope you guys enjoyed the video overall. I'll be back in a couple of weeks with a new video, and I think I know what I'm gonna do, but I'm not gonna spoil the surprise. I hope you guys enjoy it. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Judge Mathas. I want to know what you guys thought of the episode, so be sure to let me know in the comments section below or over on Twitter. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. If you've already subscribed, hit that bell button so you know when videos go live. Like I said, YouTube has a thing for making you hit buttons a lot.